All right, so we are now live with the August 7th, 2022 West March BOD meeting. This is the first of two meetings, and it's going to be our audit review for the January to June 2022 audit period. So if I can have a roll call in alphabetical order, please.
I believe that would be me then. Amanda Giles, Vice President, is present.
Andrew Brown, alternate.
David Zucker, Prime Minister.
Jody Van Tyne, BOD President.
Jordan Jameson. I have been gone quite a while, so I don't even remember, honestly, which position I filled. I think it was ambassador or something.
Liaison.
Liaison, that's right.
Yep, and then Christine, you will be between Andy and David.
Okay, Christine Stender, Queen.
Great. So looks like we have everyone. Not in attendance is Christian.
Rose Brown are also here. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I did that like the whole first meeting. My bad. I think I should put you first. My apologies. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll get started with the audit review. And just to begin with, what I like to do is just kind of review a few points out of the corpora, which is what we use for the audits. Audits will be conducted every 6 months. The Kingdom Board of Directors will conduct regular audits of all lands every 6 months. All chapters must provide the following requirements. 1, examples of recruitment, including but not limited to samples of advertising media, photos of activities, or a written description of how new players are brought to the park. 2, copies of financial records and ledger for the past 6 months. 3, copies of bank statements if applicable. 4, meet attendance requirements, and then details of any emergency that affected regular meetings of the land. Principalities, duchies, and baronies must submit a list of current officers, a list of current dues paid members, the results of the most recent crown qualifications, and the most recent crown election results. Audit periods are January 1 through June 30th, due no later than August 1st at 11:59 p.m. and July 1 through December 31st, due no later than February 1 at 11:59 p.m. Audits will be given ratings by the Board of Directors. A land submitting all required items will earn an excellent rating. A land missing one required item but provides everything else earns a pass rating. A land missing more than one required item will earn a failed rating. If the Kingdom Board of Directors fails to post the results of the audit within 1 month of the deadline, all lands automatically receive excellent ratings. If a chapter's audit is not received by the date set forth by the West March Board of Directors, it will be considered an automatic rating of fail. All groups must maintain minimum attendance requirements equal to 75% of the numbers they needed to become their current size. Promotion and demotion themselves are not automatic, but require approval of the Kingdom Althing and Kingdom Monarch. If a sponsored chapter passes 2 consecutive regular audits with excellent ratings, as well as meets the requirements for the proposed status promotion, they will be informed by the Kingdom Monarch that they have the option to place their chapter on the West March Althing ballot for promotion consideration. Shire. The Shire must have the following: maintain an average monthly unique member attendance of 5 members, have a signed contract on file with West March, have a contract on file with Amtgard, meet at least every other week, have held elections every 6 months per this corpora, and have the offices of Monarch and Prime Minister filled at a minimum. Barony. A barony must have the following: maintain an average monthly unique member attendance of 20 members, have a signed contract on file with West March and Amtgard, meet at least once a week, have held elections every 6 months as per this corpora, must have the offices of Monarch, Prime Minister, and Champion at a minimum. And then a duchy must have an average monthly unique member attendance of 40 members, have a signed contract on file with Westmarch for at least 2 years, have a contract on file with AI, have been a barony for at least 2 years, have held elections every 6 months as per this corpora, meet at least once a week, and must have the offices of monarch, regent, prime minister, and champion filled at a minimum. So those, I believe, are the relevant sections of the corpora. And let's go ahead and get started.
One thing before we got started, I did mention it in the Discord, but I'm not sure if everyone saw it. 2 of the parks are listed as the wrong land level. Faldair had last audit period went down to a shire by themselves. And Misty Vale is a duchy, not a barony. So I don't know if everyone took that in mind while looking at them, but it mainly just changes the officer required and the attendance required. So that's the only thing that would really affect, but it was listed wrong on the Excel sheet.
Okay,
Great catch.
so we can change that on the spreadsheet. I'm not necessarily gonna screen share. But with that, let's go ahead and get started with the first land, and that's going to be Agers Hall. I don't see that Agers Hall submitted an audit. And David, since you're the Prime Minister, feel free to jump in, but I don't see that they submitted an audit, so that's an automatic fail. Does anyone have any comments?
I would like to make a proposal to list all the people who didn't submit any audit and vote to automatically fail them before everyone else, and then just skip them as we go down the list.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so what I see on our spreadsheet then is Agers Hall did not submit an audit. Aureus Saltus did not submit an audit. And then Skyfire Bay, Sunfire Valley, and Sylvan Reaches did not submit an audit.
And neither did Belial's Peak.
And Belial Peaks, thank you, yes. So,
And Quixotic Valley, except they were didn't have to this time, from my
yeah,
understanding.
they're not really considered needing to submit an audit for this audit period.
Yeah, makes sense, seeing as they were in it for like all of a month. Wouldn't say much.
Well, I believe it's in the corpora that a newly approved land does not need to submit an audit for the first audit period after they've been accepted into Westmarch.
Which makes sense. I think that's a logical rule and.
Yep.
probably
All right.
good.
Okay, so Agers Hall, Aureus Saltus, Belial Peaks, and then Skyfire Bay, Sunfire Valley, Sylvan Reaches, all are auto fails. Okay. So then the first land that we're going to look at is Ashen Grove. What are the comments on Ashen Grove?
So for them, they had really nice business cards, like look almost professionally like made. I think that they were made by Spade, who's a master dragon for that, so it kind of makes sense, but they were really nice. They also were down for 2 months because half their members had COVID and one of their members was in a coma. So I personally read their snippet thing at the bottom saying that they did on the top part, the regular thing, but then on the bottom, they left that snippet saying this is what our numbers would be if you didn't count the 2 months at the start out against them. And I think that's fair, seeing as like one of their main monarchy members was in a coma, like because of COVID.
So personally, for me, and that is kind of one of the things that I considered going through the audits is I appreciate them submitting an audit with all of their struggles. I think it exemplifies the importance of having that letter at the beginning to explain the discrepancies and the things that weren't there and the struggles that they have. It looked to me like they were maybe doing their own Facebook advertising. And I also really pretty much for everyone for this audit period, and I did it for last audit period as well, but for me, I'm going to carry it into this audit period. I think lands are still getting back up and running for this audit period, not the next one. And so I'm going to give them a little bit of leeway on attendance requirements as far as dinging them for not having the numbers. Attendance sheets, that's a whole nother issue, but I think for the 2 months that they were meeting, they held attendance, they recorded attendance, they met the requirements. And so I said that they met attendance based on those criteria.
Well, they did technically make the average that they needed even with the other numbers, because they met for 4 months and then were black for 2 at the very start. And what I do like to see is they've had a nice growth each month. Like they're not just staying stagnant, they're moving up in numbers, which says good things for them going forward.
Any other comments?
I do have a question that I saw on multiple of these audits. Going down to the dues paid, there's 4 members on there, right? But if you go down to the financial ledger, I only see dues paid for 2 individuals. As far as Ash and Grow, everything looked excellent. The only thing that I would say is their financial ledger, maybe specifying who paid dues. But again, going back to only 2 people paid dues on the ledger, but yet 4 people are marked as paid dues. Is there I guess, how does that work?
So what happened with that
So, go
is
ahead.
they had members that had paid like right before COVID. And then when COVID happened, there were measures put in place that froze people's dues. So basically, as long as COVID was happening, that time is extended. So they were still dues paid into this season, even though they'd paid like 2 years ago.
There was also a glitch. I had a phone conversation, Discord conversation with Scorch. They paid, so 2 people paid dues directly to their local land, $5 each, and then they paid the other half of the dues direct to Westmarch at $5 each. Whereas they should have paid $10 to the land, and then later when ties came payable, which was actually the same month, send it to Westmarch. So in the end, it balances out. But that's also part of why it looks like only 1 person paid dues. It was 2 people paid dues locally, and then in effect, they did tithes immediately.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes
So-
sense for that one. There was, I think, 1 or 2 more, which we'll get down the list, which I identified. They had like 5 people listed as dues paid, but only 4 people, like they listed, hey, this person paid dues. And so I'm sure that'll come into
Good
effect
catch.
once we get there, but
Yeah.
I'll bring that up. But
And the
otherwise,
clock-
excellent
yeah.
across the board for Ash and Grove that I saw.
Yeah, and I know Clockwork Expires is the one where they had a huge number of people where dues were extended over COVID period.
I think the comment of it would be good on the ledger to list who's dues paid, though, is a valid one, especially because if you switch prime ministers, you know, they had the same prime minister for both periods, which helped a lot. But if it was a different person, they might be looking at it and go, gee, I don't know why we have 4 people listed as dues paid when we only have 2 on the ledger. So just listing the names would help with that later on.
I think a lot of other lands do that with when they have the handwritten ledger. Well, not even that, when they just have a ledger, a lot of them will list so-and-so dues, and they'll more itemize it
Yeah.
so you can see.
My business classes have made me like itemization, so.
Does anyone have any more discussion on Ashen Grove?
No, I think they did a good job.
Okay, so what I'd like
Yeah,
to do.
I like the advertising.
Okay, so what I'd like to do is I'd like to go through in alphabetical order and say what rating you would give them. So it'll be Andy,
Nope, Amanda first.
Amanda, Andy, Christine.
Would it be easier
David.
to maybe go for the tab order?
I don't care, you pick. Just some order. I'm just going by the Zoom thing.
Okay.
I don't, if it's easier for you to keep track of everything since you're the secretary, if you want us to do it that way, then that works for me too. Would that make it easier for you?
It either way is easier for me because you're the one who reads it out. Just
Okay, so let's do that because I can read the tabs easily rather than figure out the jumble of participants. So that's, I think that'll work probably better. So
Okay.
what we'll do is I'll go through the tabs in the spreadsheet and then just say what your rating is. And then if there's any tie or discrepancy, then we can have a further discussion. Okay, does that sound good? Okay, so Christine,
Excellent.
Andy,
Excellent.
Amanda,
Excellent.
and I gave them an excellent. Jordan,
Excellent.
and then Kaya is not here. Rose.
excellent.
So if I go through the tabs, that's kind of like automatic that I won't forget you. And then
Nice.
David.
Excellent. Be right back.
Okay, so I think that sounded like everyone was excellent. So that's an excellent for Ashen Grove. And then Rose, if you want to kind of keep track in our Excel spreadsheet of our final result as we go through,
Sure. I can go ahead and mark it.
could you please? Thank you.
So I didn't hear too well because my son was jumping on him, but I believe everyone said excellent, right?
Yes, it was a unanimous excellent for Ashen Grove.
Okay, sweet. I got that one. Hopefully Sean won't be jumping on me again in the future.
Okay, so then let's see, the next one is going to be Bremen's Fortress. And they are a shire, so they are not required to have falls. Any comments on Bremen's Fortress? They did hold a joint falls though, I believe, with Valley of the Fallen. Is that right?
That's
Yeah.
correct.
And my comment, because I'm like the sign-in sheet Nazi, is I thought their sign-in sheets were awesome. They had on Discord and paper, probably one of the best continuous ledgers that I've seen. They had a running ledger. It was color coded to easily see. And then they even had a graph that showed like the positive and negative cash flow. So somebody really likes data manipulation, and I really appreciated that. It was really helpful.
That one also, I don't know if you noticed, had the ability for you to write comments if you had any comments, which I didn't have any comments. Everything seemed pretty, well put together and readable. But it would be really cool if we had questions, we could have typed them right in there. And then when we contacted them over the questions, they'd already have it right there and possibly have already seen it.
So one thing about questions and reaching out as individual BOD members is it is best if we meet as a group and form the questions and then put our comments in as the BOD and not necessarily individual BOD members.
I'm just
Unless-
saying having the ability to write it on the thing, without impacting the thing at the actual ledger was,
Yeah.
It's really neat of them to have that capability.
Unless it's somebody who is their liaison that's working with them before the audits are actually submitted. That would be different, but anyway. Does anyone else have any comments on Bremen's Fortress?
I got a couple more on this one. I'm just trying to make sure that nothing special needs to happen, but I did notice that one of their members paid their dues, but they paid 20 instead of 10. And I don't know if maybe that's because they just paid out for the whole year, but if they did do something special like that, I would imagine that that probably needs to be annotated.
It's a good idea too, because otherwise they'll end up being asked to do it twice. But
Yeah.
if it's marked in the org correctly, it shouldn't cause a problem.
And
Yeah, if they
also
put it in the terms properly, it'll show correctly on the org.
with that, is that something that the kingdom needs to track, or is it just regardless $5 coming to the kingdom, and in this case 15 would go to the park? That's why I kind of bring this up.
I
The
don't-
way it would normally be done is they would need to still list that person twice for tithes because they would be paid for 2 periods. So either they would have to pay the kingdom tithes twice, or they would need to pay both times, even though they only collected once.
So ties are per dues pay or per voting member, dues paid person. So it would be, they pay $5 this tithes, $5 next tithes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, and then my one other thing would be for War Master Crown qualifications. I noticed a couple of lands listed players multiple times on there. What is the purpose of that? Sorry if I'm asking questions that have been answered in the past,
All questions are good.
because
You
I'm
mean
looking at,
they're listed for multiple like wins on the War Master?
well, I'm looking at the Crown qualification results, War Master players. I see Carps, I see Vanadern, I see Voss, and then I see Carps, Vanadern, Carps.
So the first 3 are the winners of the total, and then the other 5 are the individual category winners.
Mhm.
So Carps won 4 of their 5 categories. That's why he's listed those 4 times in the last 5.
Gotcha. Okay, I see it. It makes sense now. Sorry.
Right, and then they get the 5 points for winning, 3 for second, and so
Yep.
that's why he got 23. So presumably he got 4 firsts and a second.
Okay, I didn't make the relation that the left correlated with the right, so my bad. Thank you.
Nope, no, that's what we're here for. It's everybody learns.
and then bouncing back to an earlier comment, Felzar of Bremen's Fortress is listed as dues paid until next year. So yes, they did enter it properly for the 2 terms.
Which it would be good to like do a comment in the ledger once again so that future prime ministers can see it, but
Yeah, that's
they'd
exactly what I
also
was about
probably
to say.
just do it. Something like that, they'd probably be able to figure out pretty easy.
I'm looking and it looks like they don't currently have a regent or a champion. Am
They
I,
aren't required to have
They're
one
not
though.
required.
okay,
They are a shire, so they're only required to have a monarch and a prime minister.
alrighty.
Someone to come up with a plan and someone to take attendance.
Yep, and handle money.
Yep.
Any more comments about Bremen's Fortress?
I thought they did excellently.
All right, so let's go ahead and start with Christine. Your rating
Excellent.
for Bremen's Fortress. Okay, Andy,
Excellent.
Amanda,
Excellent.
I rated them excellent. Jordan,
Excellent.
Rose,
Excellent.
David,
Excellent.
great. So that's a unanimous excellent for Bremen's Fortress. So moving on next to Clockwork Spires. A discussion on Clockwork Spires. I know one of their comments was they indicated they wanted to move up to a barony. And then for their advertising, I didn't see photos or things actually in their audit package, but I do remember seeing photos of them marching in the Pride Day parade. So even
They
though-
mentioned advertising in their letter to the BOD.
they mentioned it, but they didn't actually include screenshots or photos in the audit package. But I
They're
gave
not
them,
required to. Though.
I thought proof of advertising was required.
proof of
Nope.
advertise,
Nope.
Nope.
Mention of advertising is
examples,
sufficient.
all chapters must provide the following requirements, must. Examples of recruitment, including but not limited to samples of advertising media, photos of activities, or a written description of how new players are brought to the park.
They've got
Right.
the
So
written
they gave
description.
written description.
Okay. So that's all good.
Um,
So I know they said that they want to move up to a barony, and I think we could maybe visit that at the end. Because that's going to be, let's get through the audit and then we can come back to Clockwork Spires moving up to a barony. Is that okay with everyone?
I think going up to barony is going to be a monarchy and all thing issue. I think at that, after the BOD offers a grade, it's out of the BOD's hands.
Yeah, I think our only thing is to inform the monarchy that they have successfully gotten 2 excellence in a row. That's
Correct.
all our part is. Which they have.
Right, they did as the last audit period that we did audits. I wouldn't count the one before that, but the last one, they did get an excellent.
Well, let's
And they
vote and see
did.
if they get 2 excellents in a row.
Oh, hey, let's do that. Good idea. So let me get back to this. Does anyone have any more discussion?
Not really discussion, but I would like to point out that they've had excellent growth, and I really like the fact that they have pretty much every position filled, which is a good indication for moving forward.
I'd agree with that, yeah.
I third that. Okay, so if there's no more discussion, Christine, you're
Excellent.
Andy,
Excellent.
Amanda,
Excellent.
I definitely voted excellent for them. Jordan,
Excellent. They're ready to move up.
Rose,
Excellent, they're ready to move up.
and David.
Excellent, and I'll pass on to the next prime minister that they're ready to move up.
All right, so that's unanimous excellent for Clockwork Spires. Good job. And then the next land is Crimsonwood. Comments for Crimsonwood.
Yes, 1 second. I have a question mark. Okay, for their, sorry, I have to scroll. For their quals results, they only listed the end results is what I have listed. They didn't have the full, what, like each first place, second place, third place was. So I wasn't sure by listing, do they need to just list the first winner, or do they need to be listing the first, second, and third for each category?
I think it's hard. I think it's hard when they don't use the audit submission, the packet. I think it's hard to tell, and I think that's a valid question, but it doesn't have the detail that I'm used to seeing.
But it is technically quals results.
Yes.
Yeah,
And I
So,
ranked it as such, it's quals results, but there's nothing in the corpora that says it needs to be in a specific format. It just says you need to have held quals and here's the results.
okay. In that case, they did do that, so I will go ahead and put that as excellent.
And then-
However, I have something, they list Dagger as their champion, but not anywhere that he actually qualled. So I would say that does not include their full quals results.
Is he running pro?
No, he's listed as champion, they have a pro tem regent.
Right, and then do they have all of the offices filled for
I
a
don't,
duchy?
I don't see a PM.
No PM listed, no GMR.
So
Well,
the
they don't-
GMR for a duchy isn't a requirement, but the PM definitely is. And I don't
Yeah.
see a PM. You're actually right. I think I might have missed that going through.
I did as well.
David, do you know who their PM is?
Their PM is Baranor.
Okay.
Who's the
so
one
they
who
do
sent
have-
this in?
So yeah, they didn't include it probably because they weren't elected during the time of the crown, which is what they're reporting on.
Yeah.
So verified though, they do have a PM and meet the
Yes.
office requirements for their land level.
Yes. Yes.
Who had them as a land? Should we maybe reach out to them and say, hey, next time, list your prime minister and also state if each officer was pro tem or not, because we don't know if your champion was or not.
Well, no, it specifically says that their regent is pro tem, so they listed who was pro tem. What they didn't list is who qualified for office. All they said was cultural champion. They needed to list who
Well, that was
qualified
what I
for what
meant
offices.
by not listing the details of the quals when
Right.
I was
So-
saying it was incomplete.
Yeah, so it's not a listing of monarchy correctly, it's a listing of clause correctly that they need to address.
Isn't it both?
Maybe just a suggestion, use the audit form as an outline next time, question mark?
That would certainly be a good suggestion, but I wouldn't say it's a requirement.
Agreed.
But I would say that they need to list more completely their quals process as a requirement.
And their officer list.
So would people say that that is one hit because they didn't list that? Or would it be 2 hits?
I would say if
I'm kind
everything
of
else
looking
is fine, they still would get a pass, because it's kind of not perfect, but not horrible either.
It's half of a hit.
Right.
It's a hit.
I didn't see a letter go by. Was there one?
No,
Okay.
no, the letter's not a requirement. It's just nice, but it's not a
Right.
requirement. And then the other thing that I have is they are a duchy, which needs, 40 monthly uniques, which, their attendance, I think, met a barony level, but not a duchy. But again, for me, for this audit, I'm not putting as much importance
Duchy
on
is-
that.
Well, it's
the
30
problem
communities.
is
30.
if we give them a pass on the attendance, then in 6 months, they get another excellent, and then they are ready to be voted on, whereas I think we should be upholding.
There's nothing above a duchy except a principality, and I doubt they're trying to go for that.
Sure, but if they would fail off of their
Sure.
attendance for this one, and then they fail for the next one, they'd be automatically up for a demotion.
But I
Um,
also believe duchy is 30, not 40.
It's
Well, yeah, but they didn't meet that
75%
index.
is 40.
Their numbers are 19, 18, 15, 20, 17, and 15. So it looks like the average would sit right below 20.
That's
Which-
well
Okay.
below, yeah.
Would be a
Um,
barony,
I'm
maybe.
not debating that the numbers aren't there. I'm just saying Jody had said 40, but I believe it's 30.
no,
Isn't
it is
it?
40.
It's
Well, it is.
75% of 40
Oh,
to
yes,
maintain
right.
their
So
level,
30.
which is 30.
Got it.
So we're all right.
So
Um,
yeah, their average monthly uniques are 17 and a third.
Which don't
Yeah.
meet even, that would maybe be barony is what I
It would be
said.
barony, yeah.
One thing to look at is they took a vote to allow people to sign in online exclusively. And I said, as long as they kept it in park, I wasn't gonna throw up a fuss. But it's worth noting that in their numbers, all those O's are online only. And that changes the numbers a little bit. So just kind of think about that, I guess.
I guess
mean,
what
if
I
they were
did is
told
I
that
looked
they were
at,
allowed to do that, I don't have a
Yeah.
problem.
I just looked, well, it was kind of a transition that it was, I think it was up to them if online or in person. And they were one of the most stringent lands for COVID and making sure everybody got attendance, but taking care of people if they were uneasy coming out in person. So what I did is I just looked at the bottom line of all of the O's and X's and all of those. And those were the numbers that I used to say, no, didn't really meet duchy level, but it could meet barony level. That was what I did.
Or, yeah, it looks like they only have one person who just doesn't show up and only signs in online. Which I was not really okay with, but I told them I wasn't gonna call them on it as long as they kept it in check, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, and yeah, yeah.
Okay, so they're currently a barony?
Duchy.
They are currently a duchy.
Oh. Okay, so they do not have the numbers for that.
Right.
No, no, they
Okay.
still don't have the numbers, but the number is 30 for the Everbaron or
Right.
duchy.
Yeah, I misunderstood earlier. I was thinking the total number, not the 75% of total.
Yeah.
Okay, so between attendance and quals, that would be a fail, wouldn't it?
I think so.
Pass or fail, it's a little bit, depends on how you want to look at it. But yeah, it's definitely trending towards that end of the scale.
Is there any further discussion before we vote?
Well, just as a question, you said earlier they had the opportunity to fix problems to get it from a fail to a pass. Is that right?
No, after we go through this process, if we give them a fail, then what we've done in the past is we've afforded lands the opportunity to fix whatever needed to be fixed to bring them up to a pass before 30 days after the audits are due.
Yeah. So
Which
I
is
mean,
why
for
we're
the
meeting
other
earlier
stuff-
to give them a chance to do that if needed.
Okay, so if we fail them tonight, they can then go back and give us the correct information for their last quals and then go up to a pass.
Yeah.
Okay,
We could do that. And I think that would be fair because that, makes it show that it's important to have that information, but gives them an option to correct it.
Any further comments before we vote? Crickets. Say, Christine, go.
fail.
Andy,
Fail.
Amanda,
Yeah, I hate to say it, but fail.
I vote pass. Jordan,
Fail.
Rose,
Fail with chance to correct.
David.
Pass.
So we
Okay,
have
so
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fails and 2 passes. So Crimson Wood fails. And then please let's be specific on what we're going to ask them to correct to earn a pass and when that needs to be submitted by. Please.
So I would like for them to list their entire monarchy and list their entire quals results. That's the two things that really we need to be clarified to bring it up to a pass, I would think.
So
I
basically,
agree.
they were kind of missing the PM in their list of officers.
Yeah.
Okay,
A minor ding, and I'm pretty confident that they can easily correct it.
And
yeah,
as far as when, I mean, we will need to meet in order to judge that, right? So
yes. And we have
Before our
3
next
weeks. Yep. Before the end of the month, basically.
right. And we have our meeting before the end of the month. So if
Right.
we're doing this, we'll need to schedule another meeting before we can really give that date, is what I'm trying to say.
Yes. So what
Well-
we need to, go ahead.
if that was the only one that ends up being that way, would we be okay with them just submitting it to David and letting us know and over text changing it?
I would like to, if there's anybody else who's on the border, I would like to collect those lands as a group after we're all done with the audits. And I'd like to make the criteria for, and the time for resubmission the same, so it's fair for everybody. And I think that it would be best if we could just hold a quick meeting before the end of the month as a group to review and vote and make it public and change
Fair
it
enough.
for Wednesday, August 31st.
If they're gonna be resubmitting information, I'm out of office in a week. So I might not be the best one to be receiving information. If it's just Crimson Wood, that's easy enough, but if it's several lands, we should talk about this at the end of the meeting.
I
We
second
know how
that.
many lands.
Second, or well, third.
Anyone opposed? Okay,
So the
Give me a
result
s-
was fail, and we're gonna talk about this at the end of the meeting. That was the call?
Result was
Yes.
fail. We're going to ask them to send list of entire monarchy and entire Quelch results. How to collect that will be talked about at the end of the meeting.
and when?
And when.
Okay, I think that closes that one out. And then the next land is going to be Faldare. So I'm gonna chime in for Faldare because that was one of the lands that I reached out to. I think the letter from, the letter in the audit package was really pretty self-explanatory, and they basically had their park. Nobody was showing up. The few people that showed up ended up moving to a different park. And the two people, the monarch and the prime minister currently, were left with, everybody else left. The current prime minister had zero idea of what to do for an audit 2 weeks before the audits were due. I mean, like zero. And
Hmm.
so we reached out to them, and David and I and Justin, actually, probably Justin and David more than me, helped them get this audit package put together and submitted in like a record amount of time with zero experience. So I just would like everybody to know that they, I think they just posted a new Facebook page photo, and it's an old photo, but they're trying to get their Facebook page up and running again. And I guess I kind of wanted to put in a good word for them because they really want to make Faldare a park again.
So yeah,
Uh,
it was mostly Clenna helping with the audit. I helped get their prime minister set up with the York. Their old prime minister moved, and the new monarchy had nothing, no mentoring, nada.
Yeah.
Like they basically started from scratch.
Yeah.
It's pretty
And
impressive,
they-
actually, given what I just saw.
Yeah, seriously.
Are
Yeah.
they planning to try to still survive? I thought
Oh, yeah.
from the letter that they were basically stating that they were going under and didn't expect to be a park anymore.
No, they are motivated, and they really want the park to meet. I think they probably need help from the recruitment guild. I think they probably need support from West March. But they really want to continue and to be a park.
That's good.
Yeah.
I was very sad to read their thing and thinking that they're commenting that they're just not gonna be a park anymore. So,
Well, I
Question.
think, go
I
ahead.
think they're very worried about that. Yeah.
It's hard being in Nevada and having like conclaves and meetings and, you know, going up as a group for West March and supporting them. Being in Nevada, you know, and the whole travel issue.
oh, I completely understand their issues.
But they really, They really want to make it work.
Yeah, well, that's great. They have a really nice flyer. I actually
Yep.
think whoever put that flyer together should probably get a dragon for it. It was really nice. If they don't have, like a bunch of dragons.
Question, do you need crown calls if you're pro tem?
No,
Well, are
Oh,
they
sorry, crown
Shire?
elections.
they're
Crown
also a shire. They were listed wrong on the sheet as a barony, but they self-demoted to a shire last time.
Yeah.
So they don't actually need crown quals.
Do they need crown elections though? For pro
They,
tem.
so if it is a mid thing where someone stepped down and someone else was put in, then they would be put in place by the monarch, and then there's supposed to be an election to verify.
Okay, because the only thing that I really saw from them is they have a monarch and a PM, but there's no votes on there, but they are both pro tem, is what it
Yeah,
says.
it's because
Right.
like a month ago, everybody left and they're like, okay, your monarch, your prime minister, there were no elections. They just took
Yeah,
over because
That's
that was it.
in the
Kinda
same
like-
situation for near
Probably kind of like the mere sanctum, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Right. So there's also in the Kapora, the audit requirements, baronies and up need to submit the recent crown election results and qualifications results. Shires don't actually have to submit that. They probably should be running it anyway.
Hmm.
I think for Faldare, it would be the two people who are doing things would, you're
It was
doing this, I'm
probably
doing
a
that.
1, 2, 3 not it election.
Yeah.
it's
So-
like Faldare, Namir Sanctum, and TR 6 months ago were basically two people holding down the park.
Yeah. I
So wait.
remember the days when SG had 1, 2, 3 not it elections.
They don't need it? I totally missed that. Dang. I
The
need to
election
change
result?
yeah, I need to change my choices on some things.
Okay.
So Shire. Hold on. So audits, all chapters, examples of recruitment, copies of financial records, copies of bank statements if applicable, meet attendance requirements, details of any emergency, okay? Principalities, duchies, and baronies, also a list of current officers, a list of current dues paid members, the results of most recent crown qualifications, and most recent crown election results. So a shire does not need to submit crown election results.
No. Though it is a good thing to list. But
Absolutely, but not required.
The only thing I noticed was that they took their unique average of just the 2 months that they've been active. Which I have no desire to ding them for their missing months, but it also throws off the numbers for looking at promotion, 6 months from now.
Yeah.
So I would say that they need to maybe get a pass this time, but not an excellent for that reason.
I ding them for having numbers too low because I think for them, didn't they say in their thing that they're also missing some sheets? And would have had higher attendance, or am I thinking a different land?
I'm looking at their attendance summary on the 7th page of their PDF here. And they only list May and June.
Yeah,
That's because that was the two people that are currently Faldare.
mhm.
That's all their records. They didn't have
I think-
anything else.
I think that's all they've been needing. They just started up this year.
Exactly. It's
Um,
kind of like, what was the other land that just started meeting with the
Passion
COVID?
Grove.
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
Yeah,
Sure, I'm not saying that it's like we should ding them for it, but at the same time, we can't give them an excellent for the full 6 months because that would then go in towards that 2 excellents in a row automatically gives them options.
well, 2 accidents in a row and also meeting the upper requirements.
Well,
Yeah.
sure, but if they have a huge resurgence and do get the numbers next rain, and we gave them an excellent this rain, then they would be eligible for a bump up to Barony, which would be premature because they haven't actually been operating in that regard for the full year.
So I don't feel like we can just ding them without having some specific thing that they failed. But on the other hand, I didn't see any reason that they listed for why they didn't have attendance records before, you know, online or whatever. Like Ashen Grove had people in comas, that, you know, is a reasonable reason for not meeting. But is there some reason that they weren't able to even meet once every other week beforehand?
So their park nearly died during COVID. They tried to keep it going, but then stuff happened. They lost their officers, and most of their park, due to the loss with the smoke, let's see. So the members went to the best nearby park that was started by people they'd recruited. But due to the distance, they started their own park closer to where the other people lived. So basically, a bunch of people left, started a different park, and left these 2 people to hold down the fort and make Fall Dare live.
I get that, and I think that they did a really excellent job on like all of their submitting for the audit, but that seems like the exact type of thing that having an attendance requirement is supposed to keep from being an excellent. You know, like obviously not their fault, you know, nothing that they could do about it, but if we were going to give them a pass for something, I would say the fairest thing is their attendance, which was not high enough. You know,
Actually, their attendance was high enough to meet Shire.
for all
Yeah,
6
they-
months.
Yes, for all
They
6
had,
months.
yeah,
Okay.
I just did the math and it's just over 4, which is the minimum requirement.
But they
Okay.
also didn't meet at least every other week. So you can ding them for attendance on that.
Yeah,
Okay.
because they are supposed to, yeah, they went a while without meeting, and that does, that is written in the Capora.
Yeah. But everything else, like everything that they actually had control over and could do stuff, it looks like they were making good attempts at.
Do we have
Just-
anything new, or are we ready to vote?
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Ready.
Christine,
Vote.
Pass.
Andy,
Pass.
Amanda,
Pass.
I vote pass. Jordan,
Pass.
Rose,
Pass.
Pass.
David.
Excellent.
Okay, so we have what, 6 passes and an excellent, 5 passes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 6 passes and an excellent, so the pass passes. The next one, Misty Vale, comments on Misty Vale?
They seem to have problems with their financials, though it does sound like the most recent prime minister is doing a lot to correct those.
Yeah, that's the impression I got as well.
My comment was, let me find the right line. There we go. So my comment was, I kind of thought that the running sign-in spreadsheet was interesting. And I know that they explained in the letter and had a plan moving forward to prevent discrepancies in money, but why does Judge keep adding money?
I think he's donating it and just not doing his due diligence in terms of
Well, is he,
tracking
I-
those donations.
is he donating, or I just wasn't sure.
That's
I
the
just wasn't
impression
sure
I
if it was
got.
like a donation or if it was to keep the ledger current. I guess that was my doubt.
My impression I got from reading it was that he donated and didn't write it anywhere on the ledger, and that's 100% where the discrepancy came from, that he had just donated And so they had more money than they could find any reason for on their ledger. Which isn't great, but is also,
Not the worst problem to have.
yeah, at least money wasn't missing.
Yeah, I was under the impression after reading that letter that it was a donation that just didn't get properly accounted for and is something that the Prime Minister is aware of and going to fix on the next round, if not already fixed.
And then there was a comment about missing paper copies, not being able to verify attendance records. Let me look and see what that was.
Was that one ANS records though? So it wouldn't have been regular park days, right?
Well, they say they're missing sign-in sheets for February.
Okay.
And without the paper copies, they couldn't enter them in later. So the second half of the month is showing an inaccuracy of 1 attendee.
Well, I mean, the biggest worry that I
I
have
actually
is,
see 3 missing sign-in sheets here. 1
right,
for February, or 2 for February, which they mentioned, and then they also are missing 1 in March that they did not comment on.
the biggest worry that I have is they're under numbers for a duchy.
Yeah, there's that too.
Yeah, they didn't meet attendance.
So for the money thing, I'm not sure with what the timeline of that is. And it kind of sounded like it happened with the Passover of the Prime Minister. So I wasn't really clear if that was something that happened last audit reign and they're kind of just commenting on it, or if it was squarely something that happened this audit reign. Because I know that they did have this financial problems last audit reign.
Yeah, that is true. Does their letter say exactly?
It said when the correction was made by the new prime minister, but it didn't really say when the judge guy handed the stuff over.
Well,
Or when
shouldn't
he-
there shouldn't they have signed the PM handoff sheet? I guess we don't ask for those.
I don't think the lands are required to do that. It's at the kingdom level, because I had asked about that before and I suggested it as the land PM as well as the kingdom level, but I'm not sure that that is, well, it's not required.
Yeah,
And I'm not sure how many lands do that.
I'll put
I
a
mean, I'm
post up
pretty
tonight
sure.
telling lands it's a really good idea to do it.
yeah.
Because it also
Yeah,
offers a
I'm a
checklist of all
favor
the
of
things
it.
to think about.
And
Yeah.
it's also a good time to do it since prime ministers are now changing over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a group that I was talking to in the last week or so. Their PM disappeared on them sometime early in the reign, and their
Gotcha.
monarch took over the money, and their scribe took over entering credits, and they just got a new PM last week and started
Okay,
to get sorted out. So it's pretty recent.
gotcha.
The sorting out is pretty recent, but when was the judge guy in charge of the money? Because like the issue is if this is something from last reign that like was corrected this reign, but like was an issue that happened last reign, I don't want to hit them twice for like the same thing. Like
Didn't they
historically,
completely lose their bank account last year?
Different land.
That's
different
TR.
land.
Oh, that was TR.
They
Okay,
did close their bank account, I believe, but I don't think that that was related to the financial troubles.
gotcha.
I don't
Um,
remember that they ever
don't
had a
know when-
bank account.
I remember somebody asking if they still had a bank account last time and the answer being no. But I got the impression that it had been like closed before like the whole snafu. But they didn't have one last time, so that wasn't related.
Okay, so in March is when their prime minister stopped showing up and the money went to the monarch in April.
Okay, so that would have been this audit period.
Yeah, about 2 months or a month before the audit period ended,
Uh,
because it technically ended in end of June.
yeah.
Any more comments on Misty Vale? I think their advertising again was a description of their trip to Fairy Tale Town. I actually had people that I work with that saw TR and Misty Vale people there doing the demos, which was kind of fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think they listed doing a couple demos with that one specifically highlighted, but it's good to know that they're doing something for advertising, and working with another park is cool.
Yeah, and I think they have plans moving forward to do more. I
Yeah,
think I saw a post about like a Renaissance something.
Yeah, exactly.
So
They,
that'll be cool.
Yeah.
So Misty Vale, I thought they were a duchy, but then I got here barony. Are they duchy or barony? I don't remember now.
They're a duchy. I'm 98% sure.
She
Okay.
signed it Duchess, so I'm guessing they think they're a duchy.
Okay, so
Yeah, they're
that's-
listed on Facebook as a duchy, and I remember voting for them as a duchy.
yeah, I did too. I just have it wrong on my sheet here. So
I
their
think it was
attendance
right
for me,
before COVID.
And they
It was.
used the form for duchy.
Yeah,
so for me, there were the money things, but then their attendance was at a barony level,
yeah.
right? Okay. Okay, any more discussion on Misty Vale? Okay, Christine, go ahead and vote.
Fail.
Andy,
Pass.
Amanda,
pass.
I vote pass. Jordan,
Pass.
Rose,
Pass.
David.
Pass.
So 6 passes and 1 fail. Misty Vale passes. Namir Sanctum.
Scrolling. That one.
I think I know that they've really struggled, as a shire. A lot of those things aren't required for attendance requirements. I definitely would give them credit for the work they did at DundraCon, and both members of Namir Sanctum are involved in the Recruitment Guild, which is basically advertising for all of West March and getting pages for Come Try LARP. I think Namir Sanctum doesn't have a page on Come Try LARP because they took care of everybody else except for them. They did host Kingdom Quals, although they did not enter quals themselves.
Yeah,
I know as a shire, they're not required to host quals, but and the thing for their sign-ins that I liked was they documented their sign-ins both from Discord and screenshots.
My only comment on them to the negative is that their numbers were too low. Other than that, I felt like it was put together really well, the audit. And it sounds like they've had a lot of difficulties and have done a lot of work to try to overcome them. So I think they did an excellent job as far as that goes.
Anybody else have any comments on Namir Sanctum?
I'm gonna actually, as I wrote it, I'm gonna actually, as I did last audit period, abstain from voting, just so you guys know. So like, feel free to either way.
All right, so let's go ahead and if nobody has any more comments, We'll go ahead and vote. Christine,
Pass.
Andy,
Pass.
I vote pass. Jordan,
Pass.
Rose,
Pass.
David.
Pass.
So that's a unanimous pass. Well, wait, 5 pass and 1 abstain. So Namir Sanctum gets a pass. Hold on here. Next one's Quixotic Valley, which isn't required to submit an audit this period. And so SSD, and I'm just going to kind of throw this out there. It's been an hour and a half. Does anybody need to take a quick break, bathroom break or anything? You want to continue?
I just need to plug my phone in real fast. If everyone was wondering why I finally got it.
Good.
Okay,
I'm good. Keep
So-
going.
okay, cool. So SSD is a barony. My comments are, I have like 2 things that I really love in audits, and one of them is the letters. It's like the first thing I look at, all the letters, because I just really like them, because some of them are entertaining. It just really gives me information, and this letter was entertaining and made me smile. The sign-in sheets, again, I'm the sign-in sheet guru. For me, they did sign-in sheets the way I think they should be done. But as a barony, it does not look like they held quals.
Give me a second, I'll be able to look at my notes. Sean, okay,
Oh.
damn it.
No wonder nobody can hear me. I'm muted. I'm opening up the file now too to refresh my memory on that one.
Crown calls was the only thing I had to.
There it is. 7 sleeping dragons. Right, I remember now. Oh, they did provide that. I don't know why I. Oh, wait, no, it's wrong. Wrong
So
line.
comments then on SSD? Anyone else? If there's no comments, we can go ahead and vote. Do you want to start, Christine?
Pass.
Andy?
Pass.
Amanda?
Pass.
I voted pass.
Pass.
Rose? David?
Pass.
Rose?
Okay, hold on one sec, because I just rejoined. Sorry about that. My vote was, let's see, this was 7 sleeping.
SSD, correct.
Sorry. My vote was pass.
All right, so that's a unanimous pass for SSD. Next land is Shargata, which is a duchy, correct?
Yes.
Great. So my comment was like they have 39 monthly uniques, which is really close to 40, but they really only need 30. So that was awesome.
Yep. 31 on one day was our high. So that was Cecil's birthday.
What? No, that was just yesterday, like this past weekend.
No,
Oh, that was
last week.
last weekend, my birthday weekend.
Oh, but it
Yeah.
wasn't in this quals period or this audit period.
Yeah, that's outside the
No.
audit period.
Okay. I was just gloating and you guys took it way too seriously. Sorry about that.
Does anyone have any comments on Shargata?
I miss the old scans of the sign-in sheets with all the silly commentary on top.
Oh,
Well, I'm
that's
sorry about
right.
that.
Yeah,
You're welcome for it previously though, because that was always me. Well, me and one other member, but
Hi.
and also I think you're the only land bigger than my land.
We are currently the #1 land, having surpassed Misty Vale, but hopefully they'll get back up there someday. But pre-pandemic, that was always the fight, was to get more people in Misty Vale. But hopefully everyone will be rivaling us soon.
Mhm.
Does anyone have any other comments on Shargata? Okay, so let's go ahead and vote. Christine?
Come back to me for a second, sorry.
Okay, Andy,
excellent.
Amanda,
Excellent.
I vote excellent. Jordan,
Excellent.
Rose,
Excellent.
David,
Excellent.
and back to you, Christine.
I'll go with excellent. Sorry, I was a little bit late, but I noticed when they listed their monarchy, they did not necessarily list if they were pro tem. Not a big deal, but just like a little note of improvement.
Okay, I thought we listed that, but my phone
You
is
did
currently
list
dead.
your
so I can't-
quals. You listed that they ran pro tem when you listed your quals.
Yeah,
But on your monarchy list, past and current officers, it just has their names.
So that's going to be a unanimous excellent for Shargata. And we are going to move on to Thor's Refuge, currently a shire.
Yep.
My comments, I kind of had a big concern about their comment about the Wells Fargo account funds, and that the bank account sounded like it disappeared. I wasn't really sure how they got to the current balance. I think their attendance is improving. Thanks to Bear being champion, they've gone from 2 to meeting the requirements for a shire. But I had some pretty severe concerns about money.
Yeah, I am concerned about this bank account issue and the ledger. Do we have any more information? Who was their previous PM that moved out of state?
So
So
ahead.
it was.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, David.
Oh, it was Uric. He had stuff in his van, and the van was broken into, and everything stolen. And then he's moved out of state, and he's been sick. And
I do
in and
remember
out
that
of the
post.
hospital, right? So, and then Shinobi took over, but he didn't have proper access to the bank account. Having dealt with this stuff, like not as bad, but dealing with similar with Wells Fargo for West March.
Yeah,
So I finally had somebody at Wells Fargo say they've increased their security and updated their protocols the past couple of years, which is why West March had so much trouble. So
it must be a
mean,
lot harder not
right.
having a business license connected too, because I know that caused problems when we were trying to have a bank account. They really don't like that.
Right. And I mean, even like us in West March going into the bank together in person, it was difficult. And with somebody out of state, with a lot of the information stolen, there are ways it's a royal pain in the ass. Yeah. So they figured out the best guess how much money they had, and did, what was it, a gift card from
Mhm.
the old account to deposit money in the new account,
So
or the new ledger, the cash box, excuse me.
So do they have a new bank account then, or just a
Excuse
cash
me.
box?
So I misspoke. Cash box, not bank account.
So no bank account anymore. Is it just floating around out there in the abyss, or is it
Yeah.
actually
With money
closed?
in it?
Not much anymore.
It looked to me that there was $5 in the savings and that was it.
I'm looking through their ledger now, trying to, because they mentioned a discrepancy that they got most of the money, but I'm trying to
Right.
find hard numbers on what they didn't.
Yeah, if they're doing it into a gift card, it's possible that they just weren't able to get an odd number.
Right.
And I'm not really seeing much in there unless somebody has, oh, actually, I'm too far.
Hmm.
So it looks like they had really decent records on their ledger from 2018, 2019.
Nice to have a running ledger, isn't it?
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that. So their previous bank statement from February 27th of 20, or I'm sorry, March. Looks like they had $176 in the bank account, according to that bank statement.
Hmm.
And then the next month, their balance is $5.
In the savings. And then the checking went from 351.41 to 0. I guess
Okay.
for me, when I add up 351 and 171, it didn't add up to the difference between 168.78 and 560. Does that make sense? I wasn't sure the loss of money in the checking and the savings, and then that all went into the petty cash. That number was different.
Different higher or different lower?
Hold on, let me do the math again.
Because they also
So-
had people pay dues,
Got
so
171.57 plus 351.41. 351.41 plus 171.56. I'm subtracting the 501. That's 522.97. So 351.41 and 176.56 is 522.97 plus 168.78 gives me 691.75. So for me, if everything went into the cash box should be 560 plus that difference, and it comes to 691.75 instead of 560.
did people pay dues?
Well, there's dues for Leonard and Clenot after that.
Hmm.
So that line that says bank account lost 269. 3/6/22 PM handover, where the checking account went to 0 and the savings account went to $5. The difference between the cash box at that time doesn't add up to what was lost in the bank accounts.
Right. Well, there's no records between 3/27/21 and 3/6/22,
Correct.
which there's
Almost
two
an
prime
entire
ministers
year.
there who, well, one had stuff stolen and lost and moved, and the other kind of looks like he dropped the ball in terms of record keeping.
So the
Yeah,
difference,
because
difference
even
is
if the stuff
131.75.
Because yeah, even if the box was stolen, I would still expect to see entries for that year. And there was essentially a 12-month period where nothing was put into this ledger. What did we do last audit? I feel like there should be something, this, because if I'm correct, this is covering 2 audit periods for this missing dates, right?
The audit
So,
from,
yep,
Because it's
last audit,
2021
Yeah.
and then 2022. So
last audit was letters.
yeah,
It was update regarding finances.
did they
It was
provide
3
anything?
letters. No, there was no ledger. There was no financial statements. There was no ledger that was presented. It was just a letter of explanation.
oh, right.
So it sounds
my
kind
old
of
notes.
like the
The,
lack of information is stemming from that and not really this audit period then.
Right, so I've got
Correct.
notes from that audit period that, what was it? The landlord, cleaned the apartment before the people had moved out and threw out the ledgers and threw out a lot of the records, which is
So-
also why they don't have anything.
So
Right.
wait, and they also had their truck broken into and
Yeah.
stuff stolen. So they've
That's
had
2 different people, but yes, their last 2 prime ministers had all sorts of stuff happen, which is why records are gone and.
I do remember Yurik posting about that, about having his truck broken into and a lot of important stuff being taken out.
Yeah,
was an official police report filed at that time.
I don't know.
Yeah. It was right as they were moving states, so they might have felt like it wasn't really worth it. But I don't know.
Raven, can you remind me? So are they over or under, according to the numbers? And what was the amount again?
Looks
Like
to me
$106.76 under.
So
Um,
$100 and something is missing.
I
Essentially.
got 131.75,
Oh,
but
yeah.
you guys can run the math and let me know if I'm wrong, because I'm totally could be. Math is not, accounting isn't my strong point, but I took which tab is it in? Okay, so I took 351.41 plus 176, I'm sorry, 171.56. And that's the total in the bank accounts. And I added that to 168.78, and I got, hold on, I got 691.75.
So
So for me, there's
Yeah.
$131.75 discrepancy. That's before the ice cream, before the advertising, before dues. That's between 327.21 and 36.22.
That matches
And-
what I see.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
there's a years of, they might have, collected some dues and then spent stuff.
so
And it's a discrepancy with no records as opposed to bona fide missing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
My
just
question
circling-
is it a discrepancy of no records this audit period, or is it discrepancies that would have been covered by their fail last audit period?
It's hard to tell
Um,
because there was no ledger presented last period.
some of it
So
I think
who's-
is this audit period because it's the January, February, before the new
March.
prime minister took over. Well, March is when our new prime minister took over and started keeping records.
Yeah.
So, but yes, it does hit this audit period,
Okay.
January, February, which is the old prime minister.
Mhm.
So just circling back to the bank account thing one more time, why can they not get into the bank account? Because even if they're not currently accessing it, whoever's signed up should be receiving invoices that could be included. I mean, either mailed or emailed, they should be getting a monthly statement.
I believe it's emailed. I know they don't have the information. They don't know how to access the email.
This stuff sounds like they should probably then be taking a hit for their ledger records, and we should probably follow up on it later. Because I don't think we're going to be able to, get answers necessarily tonight.
Wasn't
we
Christian gonna follow up with TR? Wasn't she gonna reach out as the BOD treasurer to a couple of the lands as far as financials?
Yeah,
I believe it
Um,
was stated that she did, didn't she? Because we
don't think
closed
we-
that.
Yeah, there's a folder in here for special audits in March, and TR is one of them.
So kind of what I'm thinking is
Sean, don't jump
if
on
we
that.
take this on face value as far as this audit period and meeting the requirements for the audit submission. And we need to follow up on the financials, not as part of the audit meeting, but as a separate item. And revisit what Christian found out and look at this again, but not as part of a discussion on TR's audit assessment for this reign.
I would agree with that in general.
Yeah.
Is there any more discussion on TR?
Let's see.
They're
I have
Shire.
nothing.
Yep, they're Shire, so they don't have, I put question marks for bank statements. I'm thinking they don't have a bank account anymore, so that
that's
wasn't,
They technically do, and I mean, that's where I'm getting a little torn up on. Because if we completely discredit the fact that there's a bank account, somebody could get access to that again, use the funds, but we've already written it off.
I mean, it's $5 in funds.
yeah, but the account is still open. Is that what you're saying, Amanda?
Yeah, and I mean, if we're certain that it was only $5 that was currently left in the bank account, I'm a little less worried about that.
It looks from what I've seen like that's all it is, that it's $5-ish, some sense, which
But there was a year in between where we don't have anything in terms of what's in their bank account. So
Can I revisit we have a bank account and there were balances in the bank account, but then how did the bank account all of a sudden become zero?
yeah, that's my concern.
Oh, I see it. They put it on a gift card.
yeah.
But
they
how
said
did
that.
they?
I don't know specifically, but I know for some things that I've lost the password to, I can still log in and do stuff, but I can't change the password or otherwise do other stuff. So I kind of just never log out and hope that it never auto logs out, because then I'm going to have to do a lot of extra work.
Oh, but gosh, with a financial account though, it's like PayPal, you leave it open. So I'm going to, well, I can't make a motion, but I'm gonna suggest that we table the item of Thor's Refuge's financials and that we vote on their audit package. And then we come back around and revisit what our action will be in following up on the TR financials.
Should we add that to new business for tomorrow?
Absolutely.
Well, I really want to make sure Kaya's involved, because as someone who just recently went through the this whole audit process, I want to know what they discovered, because I have a feeling we're just missing some really basic information that just.
But is that going to matter for our evaluation of TR for the audits? Is it going to be okay if we add it to new business for tomorrow and then maybe Kaya can be here? Because we clearly need information from her.
I don't think it's gonna matter for the audit tonight. We have what information we got from them.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's been a process. I've also chatted with some of these folks, and I don't know if we're gonna get any better anytime soon. We'll see what Kaya has to say if she had better luck. But I don't
Okay.
know that it changes what information they presented us.
Yeah, that's true. It doesn't.
And then we've got a message from Jordan that he's gonna have to disappear in a few minutes, so.
Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and vote on TR then. Christine,
Pass.
thank you. Andy,
Excellent in my,
Amanda,
Pass.
I voted excellent. Jordan,
Pass.
Rose,
Excellent.
David.
Pass.
So
We did alternate there, didn't we?
3
we
to 4
did, and
pass,
I lost track. So what are we at, Rose? What's the
4 pass, 3 excellent.
okay, so good. I don't have to break the tie. Thank goodness.
Mm.
So TR gets a pass. And then Jordan, you need to leave. Is
Oh,
there
that was
any-
for TR. I'm sorry. I did excellent for that. I thought we were on a different one.
No, TR.
Okay. Yeah, mine was excellent. Sorry.
Okay,
So that makes it 4 excellent, 3 pass.
Yes.
okay, so good. I still don't have to break a tie. Thank God for odd numbers. Okay, so we're gonna move on. Jordan, let us know when, if you need to ring off. We just have 3 more to go here. Valley of the Fallen. Does anybody have any comments on Valley of the Fallen? I know they had a joint calls with Bremen's Fortress.
I had question on whether or not they actually managed to meet attendance because they missed 4 weeks in a row in January due to meeting at Bremen's instead of their own park.
You know, there used to be like a Tri-Lands group, and they would rotate between parks. And so
Mhm.
one park would be dark for 2 weeks because they were meeting at the other 2 parks, and then they'd swing back around, and the individuals got attendance, but it was at a different park.
Yeah. The problem here is that they met at Bremen's for like 4 weeks in a row, though, without meeting at their own park, which technically makes it so that they didn't for that month meet their attendance.
Well,
But
they
it
didn't meet every other
also,
week.
yeah. But it also like that kind of hurts their own park because if people show up, no one's gonna be there, you know, during that whole like month time.
It does, and that's always been the issue with when you travel to other parks and you have like a group and you go from park to park is, you
Mhm.
know, that's always been an issue.
But anyways, that's all I had too. So I mean, I'm
Yeah.
ready to vote personally.
That's all
So-
I had. Other than that, I thought they did excellent on everything else.
So they would take a hit on the fact that they didn't meet at least every other week, but otherwise did well? Is that the,
Correct.
we're basically saying? Okay. I'm ready to vote.
Well,
Okay, go ahead.
even with, you know, not dinging them for not meeting every other week, their average monthly sign-in was 2.43. That's pretty low. Oh, I guess it is unique monthly.
Right.
Yeah,
Let's vote.
all right.
Okay.
So,
I've passed.
After my meeting, I'll take you to the pool.
Andy,
Pass.
Amanda,
Pass.
Jody, I vote excellent. Jordan,
Pass.
Rose,
Pass.
David.
excellent.
Okay, so the passes have it. Valley of the Fallen gets a pass. I think it was because of attendance was the one thing. Moving on to Wave Haven.
Well, the holding
Comments?
meetings, which is slightly different than attendance.
I'm sorry, is because of what?
They did not hold meetings at least every other week.
Oh, okay, okay.
With that, I have to bail. I'm sorry. I have to take off early.
Okay, thanks, Jordan.
Thank you. Talk to you guys later.
Okay,
Good to see you again.
All right, so we still have a quorum and we're gonna move on to Wave Haven. What comments does everyone have? Other than Fix's letters are always astounding.
Let's see.
I don't have any notes on my end specifically.
Okay.
They didn't
Uh,
pass unique monthlies for a barony.
Right.
And they didn't hold crown calls.
Yeah. They didn't hold crown calls.
And I didn't see any advertising, but let me double check that, make sure I wasn't.
I think they did
they-
mention
I
advertising.
think
Did
they,
they mention it in the letter? Yeah.
Yeah, they talk about how they recruit through Facebook and word of mouth.
Yeah.
They also attended the Kingdom Calls. I don't think any of them entered, but they did attend.
yeah, but that's not the same as holding quals for
Yeah.
land. I mean,
Okay.
I get it, and that was kind of one of my comments was, held it, so Crown Qualls held it in Namir Sanctum ? But nobody from Wave Haven actually entered quals.
Yeah.
Except
Did
you, but
any
you
of
don't
them
count.
help run quals though? Because if it was a joint, like if they were helping run, that might be different, but
Not that I'm aware of.
Right.
Julie and I
I know
judged.
Wildflower helped record the tournament. I don't recall if we had any Reeves or judges though.
so it sounds like an individual might have, but as a park, they weren't like co-running quals or anything.
Sure.
Although looking at their attendance sheets or their attendance list for 5-1, they say Kingdom Crown qualifications at Numerator Sanctum. Did they just drag the whole park there and attend crown calls? See,
Yeah.
that would be different for me.
How would it be different?
Well,
Well, I
like,
mean, that's closing for a kingdom event specifically, quote unquote,
well, sure, but I mean, like,
which I'm okay
if-
with.
for instance, in the South down here, often in the past, we've done a joint quals and basically every park pitches in, even though we did it at like some one park, like we all did quals together. And so basically we all ran quals together. So like, if they joined in on Kingdom quals, I would feel like that qualified as having crown quals.
I
I
feel
don't
like if
When
none
showed
of
up
their
at the
people,
local park that day. I'm from that park, so I entered quals at a kingdom level. Nobody else, as far as I know. Well, no, sorry, Amelia, also Wildflower, did enter crown quals. She was not attempting to qual, just entered one item. So yeah,
Unless-
nobody was at park that or at West March that or Wave Haven that day because everybody was at West March.
However, I don't think any of the locals, people running for local office were going to Kingdom Quals to enter quals. So much as going to, for local office, it was going to the Kingdom event because, hey, there's more people to hit.
Mhm.
And I
Sure.
mean, like running for office, you had to go to the Kingdom Quals.
The way I look at this is the requirement is to hold a quals and not to enter a quals. Because you can always, as an individual, go to quals, which I don't necessarily agree with requiring the lands to hold a qual, but to me, that's the thing. So if they, as a group, were helping run the qual that they went to, that would make a difference to me, but merely entering doesn't. If that makes sense.
Right, but so if they would have said, we're holding Wave Haven quals jointly with Kingdom quals at Namir Sanctum, that would have been different.
I would totally buy
Yeah.
it then.
Yeah, because then they would, I would feel like they would have some kind of management thing they were helping with to fulfill the requirement of managing a quals as opposed to merely just attending. Kind of like the difference between, cratting Dark Shore and just going to Dark Shore.
But so Atlantis, you said that, what would be your explanation here since you were there?
I I guess it depends on how we determine it, because I think that they participated in the qualification process. They didn't help run them,
Mhm.
but none of our officers attempted to qualify. But they did enter the tournament and the whole land went. So there's not, I was trying to look through the rule book or the Kapora, sorry.
Mhm.
And, you know, yes, it says they have to submit the most recent qualifications, but it also doesn't require them to run qualifications. Under Section 4 barony, it doesn't list that anywhere. So I was trying to find if there was a general, everybody has to do this.
Mhm.
Well,
That's a good
that's
point.
interesting.
Yeah. That could
Right,
lead to
so-
a different idea of,
You know, if
Right.
the results of their most recent crown qualifications is that nobody qualified, then okay, but they still have listed the results.
Mhm.
It's even
Um,
better. You could say that the most recent crown calls, if they didn't hold one in this period, was the previous period or the previous period before that.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
it's definitely a weird loophole that I don't think we've recognized previously.
Oh.
Yeah.
Taking
Like I
another-
know lands have been hit before for not running crown quals, even if some of their members had attended a different crown qual.
David?
So I just noticed something interesting in the Kapora, Article 6, Section 2A. All chapters may host their own crown qualifications on the same weekend or within a week of kingdom calls. People
Yeah, I
running
thought
for
that-
office can qual locally or at the kingdom. If everybody locally is qualling at kingdom, you don't need local. What do you do if no one's interested in qualling? That requirement to hold calls is kind of mushy.
Yeah. It would be nice if that were a little bit clearer maybe, but it sounds like,
there's not a hard requirement for them to hold calls.
yeah.
Right.
It's weird.
Did we hit anyone else for that then? Because I don't want to be unfair and give them a pass if we didn't give a pass to someone else.
That was one of my things that I held out on SSD.
Did you make notes as far as why we did pass or fails? I see Crimson Wood was fail. Qual's results, but when we post the results, like for anything other than an excellent or even the excellence, it's nice to have a little note like you got an excellent because you met all the requirements and your advertising was awesome, or
Yeah.
you know, your numbers were really way up and you know, you did a great job, or you got a pass because your attendance wasn't quite up, but then there was this other thing. So I'd like to have some kind of a description for when we post the results, why? And then that would come into play here in that, you know, if we give them a pass or a fail or whatever, and that how are we considering that they didn't specifically hold land quals, but they all went to another park.
The way I did it last time is both wrote down a synopsis of what people said and went through the notes that they left and wrote any additional information that I hadn't seen in the synopsis of what they said.
So after thinking about it for a second, would I read the results of the most recent crown election or qualifications? Is that they have to list each officer. Did they qual this? Did they qual this? Did they qual that? Or they did not qual and they're pro tem. It doesn't have to have scores or who entered. It just has to have, are your officers qualified or not? And why not? Because crown qualifications is the whole, they have to take the test. They have to, you know, qualify for office.
Yeah, backwards.
So I would say any land that lists their officers either having pro tem or qualified all of these things has met that requirement. Any land that does not list them pro tem or having qualled does not meet the requirement. It doesn't matter if they ran qualifications or not.
Okay. I'm ready to vote then.
Any further discussion?
Well, so we talked about their quals. Did they meet everything else? I don't think they did, but I'm not
No,
sure.
they
No.
didn't meet attendance requirements.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. They're currently there. Okay. Okay, so then that would be a pass, right? Because they missed
Yep.
one thing?
That's what I'm going for.
Yeah,
Let's
okay,
vote.
that's my vote.
Hey,
Okay.
1 sec. Just get into the spot. Okay.
So Christine voted pass, Andy,
Pass.
Amanda,
Pass.
I vote pass. Jordan, do we want to count Jordan's votes on his spreadsheet?
So possibly not because of what we just talked about.
Yeah, I think so, because it doesn't include our discussion. So Rose, will move on to you,
Pass.
and David.
Pass.
All right, so that's a unanimous pass, right? Rose?
And that's 5 people, I believe. 1, 2, 3,
Okay.
4.
And we'll make a note that it's because of attendance.
There should be 6 people now.
Okay. Yeah, 6 people.
Now Jody will have to
Alright.
break ties.
Oh, damn it.
It's okay.
Okay.
You only got to do it for one.
I just got one.
Maybe.
That's right. Thank God he didn't leave at the beginning. Okay. Wyvern Spur. Comments.
Um,
I think they were in pretty good shape. I don't remember. I don't have
Did they
anything in my
meet
notes.
attendance? Did they meet attendance for a Barony?
They did.
Yes.
Yep.
Let me look.
I had to search through like 10 different folders to read it all, but it was there.
I gotta say, I
Um,
did love that organization, but maybe that's just me. But
It was
was
really
nice.
different and unique. Yeah.
Yeah.
It always is.
I felt it was really good. Whoever the PM who prepared it should probably get some award for how well they compiled everything. And my only other comment that I'd written down was, is this their second excellent?
Oh, and I don't know.
I can tell you in just a minute if I can find the sheet.
Looking at the other one that you'd posted on the final results,
Post.
it was.
They don't meet duchy requirements.
And in the past, I don't think they have wanted to be a duchy.
Hmm.
Yes, we have,
Have you?
but yeah, that's what, 28, an average 28 uniques a month. That's not duchy levels. Well, last time we were hitting 30 to 40 uniques, we were patting ourselves on the back about, ooh, we could go for duchy. And then people moved out of state.
Yeah.
But if they
Being-
excellent this time and get their numbers up next time, that would be an easy enough step.
Yeah.
Yeah, David, make that happen.
No pressure.
I mean, gee, we're only number 2 in West March, getting out some duchies. I mean,
Does anybody have any other comments on Wyvern Spur?
since
I'm ready to
polls
vote.
came
Oh.
up, we did have a local attorney. We didn't have the local arts and science. Everybody entered ANS at Kingdom, and then myself and Thistledown. Thistledown did a lot of judging, and then he stepped out so I could judge his stuff. So we also helped run Kingdom.
Yeah.
So,
Sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, are we ready to vote?
I'm ready.
Go, Christine,
Excellent.
Andy,
Excellent.
Amanda.
Excellent.
I vote excellent. And Rose
Excellent.
and David.
abstain. I also
So-
got to tell Ibrahim he had the best letter of any audit.
Yes. Yeah. All right, so that's a, what, 5 excellence and 1 abstain, so that's an excellent. All right, so that, we've gone through all the lands and have our list. We were going to circle back around to
Crimson
well,
Wood.
Crimson Wood.
Yes.
And we were going to propose a reach out to them as far as what we would want them to supply as additional evidence to upgrade their fail to a pass.
Is that still required though, if we're merely like we had asked for entire quals results, but we no longer need that with the other statement we made. We just need the results of their officers.
Even without that, they didn't meet attendance, so they had two hits.
Yeah.
So what, so the 2 things are what?
They did
So-
not meet attendance requirements, and they didn't list their prime minister in their current
Yeah.
officers.
So we could
But
ask, we
they
could ask them to supply their prime minister, and then that would give them a pass and not a fail,
Sure.
because they can't do anything about their attendance.
Yeah.
Did they list all of their crown claws though? I don't think they did.
Well,
All
we
they have is-
stated that
Oh,
we,
well,
Cultural champion is Drenth, but they don't list if Drenth qualled for office. Dagger was the one who they didn't list if he had qualled or not.
okay. So do
Um,
we want to change what we're asking for them to a list of prime minister and if Dagger qualled or not?
well,
'Cause-
basically,
Well,
if all of their officers is qualled or were pro tem.
Okay.
Yeah. we
Well,
need
they
to know
listed
if
Ben
their
Vasili as
officers
pro tem.
qualled completely,
Yeah.
which is, so that's voting eligible, dues paid, passed both tests, entered War Master, and passed cultural.
Yeah. So just for what we're reaching out to them for though, we want to know their prime minister, who that is, and then whether or not each of their officers qualled or not. Qualled or ran
Yeah.
pro tem.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you think that's something we can reasonably get by tomorrow now, or do we want to see about scheduling a third BOD meeting for this
No,
month?
that's not reasonable. It needs to be by the end of the month, 30 days from when we require the audit submissions.
Well, sure, but what I think what she's asking is, can we maybe get it by tomorrow and then we don't have to schedule another meeting? Or if we don't get it by tomorrow, then we can schedule another meeting tomorrow.
We can ask,
Since it's just one land, I can email Eleanor tonight for an update. And
Yeah, because it just
there's a
sounds like we
halfway
need a
decent chance he'll get it back by tomorrow.
fine, that's fine. I just didn't want to make it a requirement because
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah, we're just saying if it's possible to, then
Yeah.
we could, and then if not, tomorrow we can reschedule.
Absolutely, David, if you want to reach out, that would be awesome.
Or we could say that, because we're just missing that little piece of information. Do we
Yeah.
really need to meet up to review that information, or can we say, on confirmation delivery by PM, we upgrade you? I mean, is that something that's really going to need a meeting to look at those 3 items?
I don't think so. I think one person saying, yes, I got that stuff. I'm happy with changing my vote.
I mean,
Yeah, I would
even
be happy
without-
with changing my vote.
I
So,
think we could
okay,
just all say that we were approving it in the Discord channel, and that would work as well.
all right, so the monarch has spoken and you guys are in agreement, so we will work on that in the Discord. But it needs to be in a public place.
Yep.
So that everyone can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would be okay with that.
So, yeah, I say we still send them an email tonight. Hope we can get it tomorrow and hit it during the meeting, but if not,
Okay.
the moment we get
So that-
confirmation.
That would be optimal. Okay,
Yeah,
all right, so what I have is Ashland Grove got an excellent
Yep.
Bremen's Fortress, excellent. Fort Spires, excellent. That's their second excellent in a row.
Yep.
We were gonna reach out and see if they wanted to upgrade to Barony, correct?
We were going to tell the Monarch to reach out because that's a monarchy thing.
Right,
Yeah.
but we are proposing, putting that to the Monarch to reach out to them for promotion.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to receive is a recommendation that they passed their last 2 audits and they have met all the requirements for Dutchy. We recommend that they be
Barony,
Barony. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah.
1 second, Sean. You need your swimsuit.
yes. Christine, yes.
Go get your swimsuit.
So they have
Uh,
2 excellents in a row. They have, just give me a minute.
You want me to read it?
No, I'm just looking, maintain an average monthly unique, give me a minute. Audits, I'm just looking at the audit. Do you have the audit section about promotion? Here we
I do.
go. If a sponsored chapter passes 2 audits with excellent, as well as meets the requirements for the proposed promotion, they will be informed by the Monarch that they have the option to place their chapter on the West March All Thing for promotion.
Cool.
So it's all up to Atlantis.
Well, you guys have to tell me if they meet the requirements for Barony.
They meet the requirements for Barony.
Okay, thank you. Then I will tell them.
And then Crimson Wood was a fail, but we are gonna reach out to them, David, and get a list of their prime minister and how and if each officer qualified or not. Faldair
So-
was, go ahead.
We need the items and scores for the items entered by Dagger and Dreth, yeah?
Yes,
Okay.
Exactly.
We don't need the scores. We just need to know if they qualified for office.
Yes. If they qualified or if they were pro tem is what we settled on.
Okay.
Good clarification point.
okay. Faldair, pass. Misty Vale, pass. Namir Sanctum, pass. Quixotic Valley, not required. SSD, pass. Shargata, excellent. TR, excellent. Valley of the Fallen, pass. Wave Haven, pass. Wyvern Spur, excellent.
Cool.
Okay, but you need yours.
So on ones, I don't know what you guys have done in the past, but ones that are close, like Thor's Refuge, where we have, 1 vote difference between a result. Do you guys go look back over that, or do you just let it go with where it's at?
I think we normally let it go where it's at.
We just let it go with where it's at, and that's where the comments on our comments, why, who voted pass, who voted, not who voted, why pass, why excellent, what could be provided to change a pass to an excellent.
Okay,
Well, we don't have a thing to change pass to excellent. We
No, we
have a
don't.
thing to
No.
change fail to pass.
And that's it, but it's just a little brief descriptor like you did for Crimson Wood. It's like everybody unanimous, excellent. Well, you guys did a great job. Well,
Yeah.
what, for TR and Valley of the Fallen, what was the difference? Provide a little bit of information going forward on
Yeah,
why we were split. Does that make sense?
it does. I'm actually, I guess I'm kind of surprised that it got so many excellent votes with the ledger issue. I personally thought that was pretty clear cut a miss, but other people did not. So I was curious just to hear from you guys so I can make a better judgment in the future why that was excellent.
Well, it was mostly, at least for me, a case of, they had provided the information. It may have been problematic information, but they did provide the information that the audit required.
That was why I voted excellent. And I trying not to be biased because I'm a member of TR, but they provided all the information. They provided the ledger. whether there were discrepancies in the financials, they were transparent. And I can't ding them for discrepancies in the ledger and the financials. That's a prime minister financial thing. But as far as the audit goes, they provided ledger records. They had screenshots of sign-ins. They did advertising. They met the attendance for a shire. They posted crown quals, officers, everything that was required for the audit for a shire they met.
For me, it was most of the problems seemed to really stem from a past prime minister. And while it may have gone into the current realm with the current person having to work on it, it sounds like mostly what they were doing was damage control for the past time when they already got a fail. So, you know, that's kind of what we want to see. If they get a fail, it might, especially because it's right before the turnover, go into the next drain slightly, but they seem to be getting things back together, and none of the issues were things that were new stemming from this rain.
Okay, I guess that makes sense. Thank you, guys.
So before we completely sign off, I know this is on our agenda for tomorrow, but I don't know if we need to make an official, I'm looking for it in the Kapora now. Do we need to make any official declaration about that principality failing or passing?
I'm
Because
gonna,
I could have sworn that they were also supposed to like submit stuff to the kingdom, but
okay,
I'm having
I'm
trouble
gonna,
finding it.
I'm gonna say that we move that to tomorrow night.
Well,
We've been here for almost 2.5 hours.
I
And I'd
just need
like
to know if we need to say anything officially about it during the audit process. Like, is
My-
there?
Standing
Uh,
is don't even have a contract signed with us.
So
Yeah.
that would be something that is actually falls under the audits, and the contract is there, and I've asked and I haven't found it or gotten it. Where is the place where the contracts for the lands are stored? Where can we look and see, do they have a signed contract with Amtgard, and when was that? Is there like a folder where all of those
Um,
contracts are stored?
The ones with West March, they're under the Google
Yes.
Drive, BOD's folder, land contracts.
Okay. All right.
And
So-
I do not see Golden City in there.
yeah,
Yeah, so
Okay.
my
Okay.
understanding is they have, from what they told me when I reached out, is they said, well, we have, see if I can find it. We have a signed contract with Amtgard. I'll have to find it. I don't know that I can find it really
It
quickly
doesn't sound like
tonight,
we need to make any.
Sent it.
but they're not, they don't have a West March contract. I believe they were told that they didn't necessarily need to have a West March contract, but don't quote me on that. I have to go look at the message thread.
Have it right here
But
if you want it.
if they don't have a signed West March contract, they're
then
not
we
a
don't
land of
need to
West
do
March,
anything. Yeah.
and they're not going to be considered as part of the audit. However, going forward, if they want to be considered a land of West March, then they're going to need to go through the process of signing a contract with West March. They're in
Andy.
Austin, I believe.
Andy, you said you had something?
Yeah, the screenshot that Jody, you posted, their response that they gave you was, we were never asked for one. Instructions were to get a contract
you.
with AIBOD and get permission from every kingdom monarch from CK to WM.
Thank you. That's
Which
it.
that's usually the starting process anytime a land that is closer to other lands wants to join. That's not the end process
That's
usually.
it, and that's not what our Kapora says.
Yeah,
Our Kapora says they have to have
yeah.
a contract on file with West March, not Amtgard.
well, both
AI.
technically.
Both.
Yeah.
Amtgard first, and then they have to
Yeah.
do West March. Thanks, Andy.
Yeah, that was a fall down of the BOD at the time that they joined. That it never did that, because they did go for a vote, I think. So they're on the all thing now to be demoted to a shire. And the BOD needs to see if they still are interested in being part of Westmarch and get a contract signed right away, or say they don't want to anymore and okay, they're done and be gone.
But the answer is we don't need to do anything on the audit with
Yeah.
relation to that.
Correct.
Correct. Correct.
Cool. Should I motion to close the meeting then?
I appreciate you bringing that up though, because I think that that was important, even if it's not directly for tonight. I think that was, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. Yeah, and
Okay.
I'll agree with that motion as well.
So you seconded it?
Yeah.
Okay, so that means that the West March audit meeting is going to conclude at 7:26 p.m. I appreciate all of you for being here and the time that you spent out of your weekend, because I know it's important. Thank you. And I'm going to end the meeting.
Good night.
Good night.
See you all later.